It's kind of wild to think about how our childhoods can be like this silent programmer, just writing code in the background of our minds. Code that ends up running our adult personalities in ways we don't even see. Today, we're going to look at 3 really specific, kind of unusual traits that a lot of us carry around without having a clue where they actually came from. I mean, have you ever really wondered that? Why does some specific reaction you have or this feeling you just can't shake feel like it has roots so deep you can't even find where they started? It's a huge question, and it's pretty much the whole reason we're digging into this today. And here's the thing. Psychology has a pretty clear answer. It's not just about picking up a few habits. Growing up in certain environments can literally install a whole new operating system inside you, one that dictates how you see the world, how you deal with people, and even how you feel about yourself. Okay, so we're going to break down 3 of these program traits. But, and this is a huge but, we're not talking about flaws here, not even close. These are survival skills. These are actually brilliant adaptations that helped a kid get through a pretty tough situation. All right, first up, this feeling of constant alertness. You know that phrase, walking on eggshells? Well, this is basically the science behind it. It's like you developed this advanced emotional radar because you grew up in a place where you had to constantly scan everyone's moods just to know if it was safe. There's actually a clinical term for this, hypervigilance, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Your senses are dialed up to 11. Your brain learned that paying super close attention to the tiniest shift in someone's tone of voice, their mood, their facial expression, that was absolutely essential to your safety. It's like your nervous system took on a full-time security job. And we're not talking about just a vague feeling of anxiety here. No, this is super specific, granular stuff. A kid might learn to tell everything from the sound of their parents' footsteps on the floor or the way they jingle their keys in the door. Those little sounds become massive data points that tell them whether to make themselves small or if it's okay to relax. So what happens when you grow up? Well, that childhood radar doesn't just switch off. It just finds new targets. Now it's scanning your partner's one-word text message, or the slightly weird tone in an email from your boss, or when a friend is quiet for too long. And it almost always jumps to the same conclusion. Something's wrong. It assumes the worst, because that's the program that kept you safe back then. Now, that same survival programming, that same danger scanner, it can do something really weird. It can make something good feel, well, threatening. Which brings us to trait number 2, rejecting praise. It sounds totally backward, right? Who doesn't like a compliment? But if you grew up where praise was rare or came with strings attached, a simple compliment can feel really, really uncomfortable. At its core, this whole thing is rooted in chronic self-doubt. I mean, think about it. If every time you got a compliment as a kid, it was immediately followed by a but, or you knew they wanted something, your brain just learns, nope, don't trust it, it's a trap. Accepting praise feels risky because you're always waiting for that other shoe to drop. Here's a classic scenario. A kid comes home with an awesome report card, almost all A's. And what do they hear? What happened with this B+? Or why wasn't it perfect? The message that gets burned into their brain is even my best isn't good enough. So of course, praise just feels wrong. Fast forward to today, and that old program is just running on autopilot. Someone's like, wow, you did an amazing job on that project. And your instant reaction is to say, oh, it was nothing, or to immediately point out all the flaws. You might even get suspicious, wondering, okay, what do they want from me? Because you learned that kindness often had a price tag. All right, our third and final trait is a big one, the need for control. And it makes perfect sense when you think about it. If your world as a kid felt totally out of control, unpredictable, and just chaotic, what's the one thing you're going to crave more than anything else? Control. It becomes your safety blanket. You can literally draw a straight line from the past to the present here. If the past was defined by emotional chaos, then the present becomes all about finding safety and control. If you grew up with sudden outbursts, then routine feels like calm. Shifting, unpredictable rules in the past means that today, predictability feels like peace. It's a direct protective reaction. So, for example, a kid might become obsessed with keeping their room perfectly clean. But it's not really about being tidy. It's about this desperate, deep-seated hope that if I can just control this one thing, if everything is perfect, maybe the bad stuff won't happen today. They're trying to manage the external world to survive the internal world of the adults around them. And as an adult, oh boy, this can show up everywhere. Maybe you need your daily routine to be exactly the same, or you get really anxious if plans change.
Maybe you find yourself constantly asking your partner, "Are we okay? Are you sure you're not mad at me?" Even in a totally safe relationship, that unpredictability can trigger that old, deep-seated fear of chaos.
Okay, so we've laid out these three traits, but right now we need to talk about the single most important part of this whole thing. It's time to completely reframe the story. This is not, and I repeat, not a story about what's wrong with you. This is a story about what you did right just to get through it. Let that one just sink in for a second. This is the absolute core message. That hypervigilance, that difficulty with praise, that need for control, they're not signs that you are broken. They are medals. They're proof that you survived. They show how incredibly resilient and adaptive your mind had to be. So, where do you even start with healing this stuff? The key is to start small, like super small. First step, just notice. Acknowledge the patterns when they show up without judging yourself. Then maybe try setting one tiny boundary this week, or just pause for a breath before you automatically say, "I'm sorry." Or maybe just once ask yourself what you need before you rush to take care of everyone else. These are small hinges that swing big doors. And please, please hear this. You are not responsible for the emotional world you grew up in. You were a kid. It wasn't your job to manage it, to fix it, or to endure it. Letting go of that blame is absolutely critical. But, and this is the empowering part, you are responsible for the one you create now. The past might have written the first draft, but you hold the pen today. You are responsible for building a world for yourself now that is safe, compassionate, and consciously your own. So as we wrap this all up, I'll just leave you with this question. Not to judge yourself, but just to reflect. Of these three traits we talked about, which one kind of hit you the hardest? Which one made you go, "Oh, wow, that's me"? Because honestly, just recognizing the pattern is the first and most powerful step you can take. Thanks for exploring this with me.